Take a moment to imagine 10 years ago. Total War Shogun 2 Fall of the Samurai had just come out, and it is incredible. It's everything you could ask for a DLC. Cheaper than the base game, and not to mention, insanely large amounts of new content. It is so good. Now take a moment to think about how you felt when Total War Pharaoh dropped. Lackluster, overpriced, basically a rebrand of Total War Troy? This seems to be the general consensus around Total War Pharaoh. Now don't get me wrong, there's a number of people actually praising the game. Right now, Total War Pharaoh, as of 1,700 reviews on Steam, is mixed. It's a mixed review overall score, which is, not good, not terrible, if you catch my drift. But most of the positive reviews that I'm seeing don't have much more than 10 to 20 hours in the game. That's not really a good sign. And the negative reviews are completely panning the game. Just outright hatred for it. And I think that this really shows the divide of Total War fans at the moment. You've got two camps, and ever since Total War Warhammer came out, you've always had two camps. You've got the Total War historical community, and then you've got the Total War fantasy community. And personally, I actually like both. Total War Warhammer, great game. I really enjoyed it. Warhammer 2, absolute banger. Loved it. Total War Warhammer 3 came out, and I was so-so on it at launch. I just wasn't in a mood to play that. But then I revisited it a while later, and I absolutely love it now. And I've got a pretty crazy Dark Elves campaign that I'm doing. So Total War Warhammer 3 to 1, I've enjoyed. And historical Total War is my bread and butter. Total War Shogun 2 has been in my top 5 games since I started playing it all those years ago. On top of that, I've played every single historical Total War game that has ever launched. And I've enjoyed almost every single one of them through Rome 2 and Attila, and then after that it does fall off quite a bit. But I am a huge fan of historical Total War games, so I can completely see both sides of the argument. Fantasy Total War players who are used to Warhammer see brand new games like Three Kingdoms come out, and they think, oh, this is actually pretty good. I really like this. It's as if they took Warhammer and then made it into a historical world. That's cool. And they incorporated all my favorite fantasy elements of Warhammer. And then to historical players, they see that and they go, what have they done to my franchise? Why do I have to sit through weird cutscenes that aren't historically accurate? Or why do I have to have this weird dueling system going on? And why are generals so goddamn overpowered? What happened to Total War having soldiers against soldiers and actual tactics winning battles? That's at least the way I see the two sides of the coin. And definitely one side of the coin is getting a lot more attention than the other. Warhammer has basically totally taken over the Total War franchise. At this point in time, it gets so much more attention, so much more content, and so many more updates. And the actual game itself, Warhammer 3, is so much more detailed and polished and has everything people want versus the historical games that have come out, which feel like they've slapped a $60 price tag on an unfinished product and just reused Total War Troy assets. It's a real shame what has happened to historical Total War, and I think it will lead to the end of Total War as we know it. It's really a crying shame that we're at this stage in Total War's lifespan where it's become a Warhammer game. That's it. It's just for Warhammer fans now. And I'm into it. I love Warhammer 3. But the rest of Total War is completely lacking, and this totally shows in the current Steam charts for Total War Pharaoh. As of recording this right now, there are 529 players in Total War Pharaoh. 529 people are playing this game, and it's had a 24-hour peak of 968 players. That is not a lot of players, and let's compare that to Total War Rome 2, a game that came out nearly a decade ago, has 6,381 players. What the? What? Yep. That is insane. Then you move down to Medieval 2, which came out even longer ago. That came out in 2005, I want to say, something like that. Has 5,189 players. Empire Total War, 3,890. Total War Shogun 2, 4,100. Attila, 2,700. Napoleon, 3,000. Rome Remastered has 1,500. And then Rome Complete Edition, 1,000. And then you go all the way down, and the so-called historical modern games. Total War Pharaoh, 630. I guess the webpage just updated, so it gained 100 players. Very nice. Total War Troy, 351. And then Total War Three Kingdoms actually has a very respectable 2,000. I'm a little bit surprised by that, but hey, maybe I should go back and revisit Three Kingdoms, because that's not a bad player count. But Pharaoh and Troy, absolute abominations. That is incredible. And of course, Warhammer is also thriving. Warhammer 3 has 20,600 players, which is the most of any Total War game. And then Total War Warhammer 2 has 3,500. And then Warhammer 1 has a mere 600. But that's because who would play Warhammer 1 when you have Warhammer 3 and 2, which are basically just better versions of that, if you know what I'm saying? So that does make sense. But either way, the fantasy games are popping off. The historical games are popping off as well. There's an equal number of players playing historical Total War games as there are players playing Warhammer games. That's pretty impressive. So this community truly is divided 50-50 between fantasy and historical. And I think that is fantastic, that both sides of the coin have really, really strong numbers showing out for them. The real problem is the modern historical games. They are certified flops, and for good reason. The games are basically a reskin of Troy. They are super limited cash grabs. This is not $60 worth of game here. I mean, it is somewhat entertaining when I play Pharaoh. It's okay, but it feels very bland. It doesn't feel like I'm truly getting the historical experience there. And there's definitely not enough content to go around. They could have easily added the Greeks into this thing. That is like the easiest of all easy things to add. Or Persia. They could have added so many different Bronze Age collapsing factions to this game. They did not. And there probably are in future DLCs. And that kind of goes to show it. In the past, we used to get pretty much everything that encompassed the world as it was needed in whatever map we were playing on. And then DLCs would either be like 100 years in the future or 100 years in the past of that world. Except now, we're getting that world, and then the DLCs are going to be factions and historical units that should have been in the original game. That really, really sucks, and they're basically locking other factions behind a paywall, which blows. That is such a lack of content and really, really is a shame. It is expensive and doesn't have nearly the same amount of content as it used to or should. And Total War Pharaoh really might be the end of Total War if they continue down this line. Fantasy Total War, I think, could survive for a while. Total War Warhammer 3 did have a controversy with one of its latest DLCs where it just was basically no content, and then it was like $30, which, is a huge problem. But at the same time, Warhammer 3 isn't going to die out because overall the game is good. This is dying out, will die out further, and was just bad from the start because the content just wasn't there. And that has been a consistent theme throughout pretty much all of historical Total War. I mean, it's not even the fact that this is a lackluster game with not enough content, not enough factions, etc., etc. The game itself doesn't run well. There's a ton of glitches that I've encountered left and right. On top of that, almost all of the units are basically the exact same. It is such a shame, and it really shouldn't have been this way. But CA has gotten extremely greedy, extremely lazy, and they clearly don't want to make a polished product that historical fans would enjoy. Now, people keep on crying out for Total War Medieval 3, and I have to agree. That is the next logical step. It's an era of history that we haven't seen for many years, and it would do with an amazing graphics update. Attila has the 1212 AD mod, which is an extremely popular mod and is extremely fun. Highly recommend going and checking it out. But I am not fully convinced that Creative Assembly is capable of making a game as good as Medieval 2 anymore. I think graphically they could accomplish it, but in terms of aesthetic, in terms of game features, in terms of game mechanics, I don't think they are capable. And they'll probably end up having weird hero units with magic and all this other crap that no one asked for. If you want that, go, invest in buying part of the Lord of the Rings property to use it for a game. That would be sick, and I would absolutely love that. But don't do that for Medieval 3. And that's what I think is going to happen. I strongly believe probably the next historical title will be Medieval 3. I think they've seen the outcry and they know they can make money with it. But I also think they've seen that they can make money with all of these games despite the bad reviews. And therefore, they're just going to go ahead and make another crappy game, overpriced, underdeveloped, just a fat loser of a game. They are definitely going to do that once more. And it's a real shame because Medieval 3 deserves better. So I hope to God they maybe outsource this to new developers or create a new team that is passionate about history. Do something. Don't get that Total War Sophia or whatever the developers who made Troy and Pharaoh. Don't get them again. Go find someone new. This is a mess, and it is a real shame, and I think Total War is truly dying. And, I've gotten a lot of the Total War products for free. I should be the biggest advocate for Creative Assembly. For a few years now, ever since Total War Warhammer 1, I've received all of the games for free, minus Pharaoh, because I stopped covering them as much because I wasn't liking the games, so they kicked me out of the program. Totally fair play. But I should be their biggest advocates, but I've been pretty outspoken with every game that, hey, man, this has not been really my cup of tea. And I should be the one who's like, oh, yeah, I love Creative Assembly. Their PR team's really nice. They give me free games. That should be like an easy +3 points to my review, but the games are just that lackluster, that overpriced. It is a real, real shame. Now, for anyone who actually does like the game, that's awesome. I hope you enjoy playing it, and I think it's great. Just enjoy yourself. Don't let people tell you you can't like something, because that is definitely silly. But it's okay to complain about this, because if they see it, they might actually change something. Maybe, I don't know. There's no way they haven't seen all this outcry. It is just covering all of their social posts 24/7. But yeah, the Steam charts don't lie. That really shocked me that they were under 600 current players. That is crazy. It's just a real, real shame. A real shame. There's even 2 players in the Medieval 2 Total War demo. That's so strange. Why are people playing the demo? Oh, I don't know. Oh my God, there's 4 people in the Napoleon Total War demo. There's 1 person playing Total War Kingdom. Who the heck is even playing that game? Is it? I thought that got removed or something. I don't know. I don't know. But either way, absolute shambles. Absolute lunacy we got going on here. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and show me your comments in the comment section below. And, what you think of it. Either way, guys, I'll see you all in the next one. Peace. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Be sure to click that subscribe button for more content and hit the notification bell if you'd like to be alerted to whenever I live stream or upload. Thanks so much.